are you adding the human touch to your speeches? Well, we'll explore that a little bit more in just a moment. But first of all, my name is Shola Kaye. I'm a public speaking coach, a professional speaker, and also an entertainer based in London. And I have clients all around the world, typically organisations and individuals too. Now, we all know that the robots are here, right? They're here, and there are going to be more of them coming, but you don't need to be one, right? There are plenty of them around. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the things that makes us as speakers different than perhaps using Siri or Alexa to recite a presentation is the fact that we are human, and Siri and Alexa and robots are not. The important thing that we need to include in our presentations is some aspect of our humanity. It might be just a little snippet of our lives. It might be a full-blown story. It doesn't necessarily matter. Of course, stories are important, but it's really super relevant that you include some aspect of your humanity and your personality when you're speaking. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, just recently I was working on a project with a company, and they had a bunch of coders who were making some very technical presentations at a big company conference. And I was brought in to help them to shape up their presentations, to basically get them ready for this conference and to give them the confidence to stand up and speak in front of their peers and obviously do a good job. One thing, when we're used to making technical presentations or presentations for work, we can get bogged down with the fact that the presentation obviously has to contain a certain amount of serious detail and information that is relevant to your industry peers. But just because that is the purpose of the presentation, what it doesn't mean is that we shouldn't include anything about ourselves, about our personality, about our daily lives, about the way that we personally speak or think and behave in our day-to-day business. And the reason for that is people are obviously there to hear the information, to learn more about the industry or the latest developments, but they want to be able to relate to the speaker. So if you go out and you're pure 100% business and it's all boom, 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 rat-tat-tat, here's the information, goodbye, you've missed out on an opportunity to connect with your audience. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to tell a slushy story about some important thing that happened in your life, in your personal life, when you're speaking to a bunch of coders, or if you're an accountant and you're speaking to the board. But just a little smattering of personal information can be enough to turn your presentation from being sort of very dull, not necessarily dull, but being extremely businesslike, to being well-rounded. Okay, you can be businesslike and personal at the same time. One example is that when I was working with this group of coders and technologists, one thing that we did is we watched a few presentations from people who were doing very well in their industry. And one presentation in particular, again, it was very businesslike and very technical, but the speaker took a couple of moments, key moments, where he talked about his journey, his flight from London to, I think it was Australia, where this presentation was taking place. And he talked about his thoughts on the flight. He said, well, I was sitting on the plane, I was thinking about X, Y, and Z, and it made me think, well, I should, etc., etc. The detail isn't important, but just the fact that he was telling us about his thoughts while he was on the plane. Now, pretty much everybody in that room would have been on a plane before. So instantly, they too get to think, oh yes, when I was on the plane last time on my vacation to France, or when I was on a plane last time. So it gets them to connect with the speaker, right? Because it's a shared experience, and they're thinking, oh yes, I have a bond with this speaker because I've been on a plane too. The next thing the speaker did is talked a bit more about the technology, and then he mentioned that morning before he got to the conference centre, he was at breakfast in the hotel, and he was thinking again about something else. Okay, all of us have had breakfast, right? So we're all thinking, oh yes, so he had breakfast. Okay, yes, I've had breakfast too. It happens almost on a subliminal level, but just those little snippets are enough to get us to relate to the speaker, rather than someone who comes out and it's all about boom, 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 fact, numbers, goodbye. So you don't have to be an expert storyteller. Of course it helps, but if you can just drop in, I was on the tube this morning thinking about this, or while I was putting my daughter to bed last night, it occurred to me that I should share with you. And those little snippets can be enough to turn your presentation from being workmanlike and of course effective still, to you being, as a speaker, seen as someone who's relatable. It doesn't take a lot. Just that is enough. So I hope this made a bit of sense to you, and you can see how being human and revealing some little snippets about your humanity or your day-to-day life can turn your presentation into an experience of connection with your audience. Of course, you can go further and you can share full-blown stories. But if perhaps you're not comfortable with doing that, or you're in a situation where you're sharing very technical information, or it's with very senior people and you don't feel relaxed enough to share a full story, then at least just those few little pearls of detail, of personal detail, can be enough to make that human connection with your audience. Thanks ever so much for listening, and please do get in touch, connect with me on LinkedIn, Shola Kaye, or go to my website and download one of my various freebies, and I hope to see you again on another video, blog or podcast. Take care.